The wind howled across the barren street of Red Hollow, carrying dust and whispers through the hollow bones of a dying town. The old saloon creaked, the church bell swayed, and the desert beyond the horizon shimmered like a cruel mirage. It was the kind of place where people came to hide, or to bury something, their past, their shame, or their heart. Elias Granger rode in with none of those intentions. He was a man carved from iron and regret, a gunfighter who'd once been known by every sheriff west of the Mississippi, but years of smoke and blood had dulled the gleam in his eyes. He came to Red Hollow to disappear, and instead, he found himself bound by law and circumstance to the quietest woman in town. Her name was Clara Whitmore. He met her on a Sunday morning, when the town gathered in the church, not to pray, but to witness what they called justice. Sheriff Dobbs had cornered Elias the night before, slapped iron cuffs on his wrists, and told him he had two choices: hang for the crime of killing the mayor's drunken nephew in self-defense, or marry the girl whose reputation had been ruined by his unwanted heroics. It was a setup, everyone knew it. But in Red Hollow, truth bent under the weight of power. Clara stood in front of him that morning, pale as moonlight, her hands clasped tight around a small bunch of dried flowers. Her hair was braided, her eyes downcast. She said not a single word as the preacher mumbled his way through the vows. Elias remembered thinking she looked like a ghost. He didn't want to marry her. She didn't want to marry him. But when the preacher said, "You may kiss the bride," Elias just tipped his hat, muttered a rough ma'am, and walked her outside. No kiss, no warmth, only silence. They rode together to the small cabin on the edge of town that had been left behind by her father. It was a lonely place, surrounded by wind and sagebrush. Elias unsaddled his horse, removed his gun belt, and stood by the door, staring into the dying light. Clara busied herself inside, lighting a single lantern, her movements graceful and quiet, as if she were trying to make herself invisible. For the first few nights, they barely spoke. Elias took the floor, she took the bed, and neither of them slept much. He caught her sometimes sitting by the window, watching the moonlight touch the hills, a sadness in her face that words couldn't reach. Then came the fourth night. The storm hit suddenly, a fierce desert tempest that turned the sky black and rattled the cabin walls. Lightning split the sky. The wind screamed. The roof leaked. The fire sputtered. And Elias found himself awake, watching her struggle to keep the window shutter closed. "Leave it," he said gruffly. "Ain't worth fightin' the wind." But she didn't stop. When he got up to help her, the shutter broke loose, and the two of them stumbled together, soaked and breathless, rain slashing through the gap. For a moment his hands caught her shoulders, and he saw her up close, saw the way her lips trembled, not from fear, but something deeper. "I don't need your help," she whispered. "Didn't say you did," he replied. There was a pause long enough for thunder to roll, and the wind to settle into a low moan. Elias looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she wasn't weak or frightened. She was angry. Angry at him. Angry at the world that had made her quiet. That realization hit harder than any bullet. She turned away, but he caught her wrist gently. "Clara," he said. It was the first time he'd spoken her name. "You didn't deserve none of this." Her eyes lifted, shimmering in the dim light. "Neither did you." For a long moment they stood like that, breathing the same charged air. Two broken souls bound by something neither of them had chosen. The wind outside began to ease, and in its wake, a heavy stillness filled the cabin. Elias let go first, retreating to the table, running a hand through his rain-soaked hair. He poured 2 cups of whiskey, slid one toward her. She hesitated, then took it. They drank in silence. Then, softly, she spoke again. "They said you killed him in cold blood." "I did what I had to," he said. "I believe you." Those 3 words felt like sunlight breaking through a storm. She turned to face him fully now, and for the first time, he saw her not as the timid girl from the church, but as something fierce, quiet, yes, but unbroken. Her dress clung to her from the rain, her hair fallen loose around her face, and her eyes burned with something raw and alive. He didn't move, didn't dare. But then she did. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them. And before he could speak, her lips were on his, soft, desperate, and trembling with fire. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was years of silence breaking all at once. It was anger, fear, and longing tangled into one wild act of defiance. When she pulled away, her breath came fast, her eyes searching his. "If we're to be married," she said, voice trembling but strong, "then let's not live like ghosts." Elias didn't answer. He couldn't. His heart was hammering too loud. Outside the storm raged on, but inside something else had begun. Something neither of them could stop.